Welcome to this edition of Law Focus with Nathan Prescott, attorney Nathan Prescott, with us today here on Ocean 7.
You want to do the bump?
Let's do the bump, the COVID bump.
The COVID bump. So my COVID bump is getting better. It peaked at some point when we thought the COVID was peaking, and then it's just like the COVID curve. It descended, my dexterity with the bump, and now it's increasing again. So my bump's getting much better.
But this time, as the COVID virus continues to spread,
right,
the death rate is much less than before.
It is. So that's, not a topic really for me at Law Focus. I'm no expert on it, but yeah, that's what I read, right? The death rate's going down, the ability to treat it is going up. The utilization rate, from what I understand, may be going up. When utilization rate means how many people need to be hospitalized and things like that. So that's really concerning to me.
So is the virus weakening? I wonder. We don't know.
We don't know. Is it weakening? Are younger people getting it?
Yes.
Who can better fight off the disease? Or has the virus already infected the old people that are the susceptible, the most susceptible populations, which may be most injured by it? I don't know.
I don't know.
What
an interesting time we've been through.
We've been through a lot of interesting time, and I haven't been on the air in a few weeks, and you asked why. Well, the reason is because when COVID peaked and everybody started reopening, about a month ago, I guess, the courts started reopening too. And with the courts reopening, I've been back in the full swing of things. Some courts have opened fully. Some courts are doing Zoom hearings. Some courts are making you wear masks. Some courts aren't. So, as somebody that works in the legal profession, it is sort of difficult to find out exactly what's going on. Like for instance, if a lawyer says, "Hey, I can't do a hearing that day," you don't know if that's a dilatory tactic, or if that's something because maybe they're worried about COVID, or if a judge can't provide hearing dates, is he or she having a hearing on those dates because maybe they're already booked up, or is it because of COVID? Or if it's a Zoom hearing, the same thing, the same analysis applies. So you got clients out there that are saying, hey, why can't I get a court date in the normal, customary, expeditious fashion? And you're responding, I'm not really sure, because there's every court is a little different, every judge is a little different, and every community courthouse is a little different. So we are working through that.
Now, there have been some big developments in the courts over
the
last few
in the courts
weeks.
In the state, there's just no question about it. So I think that what we should do, I think we would be remiss if on Law Focus, of course the Law Focus is about the law and you and how it affects you. So we have a recent and brand new law in Mississippi, and that law says that we no longer have state flags, right?
Right.
So everybody knows, and I'm sure they've read the papers, but here on Law Focus we report and sort of analyze bits of the news. But, we had the battle flag. We had the Confederate battle flag as part of our state flag since 1860s, somewhere around in there, right? And in 2001, I believe we had a referendum, and they proposed a new flag, and that new flag was not adopted. So recently, we had some pressure from the NCAA and the SEC and some large retailers, including Walmart and Sanderson Farms, to sort of move the flag, to remove the battle emblem from the flag. Mississippi State Legislature did that just recently. And I think the question moving forward is, what flag will we have, right? Are you familiar with how that works?
Well, how will they figure this out?
Yeah, so the way I understand it is there's going to be a commission, and the commission is going to have 9 commissioners on it. 3 of the commissioners appointed by the governor, 3 of the commissioners appointed by the lieutenant governor, and 3 of the commissioners appointed by the Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, right? So those commissioners are going to go in, and they're going to find and design a flag. Now, the only requirement on the flag is that it not have the battle emblem on it, the Confederate battle emblem, and that it does have "In God We Trust" on it. "In God We Trust" was a motto added to our state seal by Governor Bryant prior to, and it was just pretty recently.
Wow.
So that's something that's out there. A lot of people are saying, well, that's just baiting to the base that would want the Confederate flag on there. Some people are saying, well, what about the separation of church and state? And some people are saying, well, just in regard to a design, should a flag have words on it? There's a question regarding the aesthetics of that. But understand the legislature, for whatever reason, got the battle emblem off the flag, but decided to put "In God We Trust" on there. So the requirement of the new flag is that these commissioners join it, say "In God We Trust," and then as Mississippians, we get to choose in November, early November, I don't know if it's the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, that first Tuesday.
To vote on a new flag?
To vote on a new flag.
So we get to vote on it?
We're going to get to vote to affirm or deny the flag that exists, or the flag that they propose. And if we deny it, what may come about is another referendum on the Confederate flag.
Meaning to bring it back?
Well, no. I mean, you can't bring it back, right? You can't bring it back through this vote. But if enough supporters of that flag came out and said, hey, look, we're not going to vote on this flag because we want our old flag, then we just won't have a flag for a while.
Yeah.
Or, or if we've got a situation whereby we've got a staunch supporter of if somebody just doesn't want the Confederate battle flag, but also doesn't want the "In God We Trust" flag or the flag that they've proposed for the reasons of linguistics or the design or separation of church and state or whatever, or because it doesn't have a Confederate flag. I can see a scenario where Mississippi just doesn't have a flag for a while, and there's nothing that requires us to have a flag. But right now, we have no battle flag. Conference USA, the SEC, the NCAA are quite satisfied with the I would say just pressure that they put on the state of Mississippi to lower that flag. It's been something that has been discussed for a long time. I know you used to work in Jackson. It's always been the issue of the state.
Been an issue for so many years.
As long as you can recall, right?
And yeah, and I get it. I mean, I understand. We're all from the South, and that was part of the history of the South being, a Confederate state, and it was a part of our history. But it's the past. It's the ancient past almost, and it was such a divisive issue. It hurt so many people's ability to salute the flag because
it did.
It was a divisive. It brought back terror to people, and so it was time to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Without editorializing too much.
But I mean, it just makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and I understand completely that it was a divisive issue. It was extraordinarily divisive, and frankly, from a personal perspective, I'm quite proud of our state for doing what it did.
Finally did it, and it was Tate Reeves who was there to do it at this point. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, Edward, I understand you've had some affiliations with Governor Reeves in the past, but during that period of time, Governor Reeves, never really came down. He said, I will sign it if the legislature passes it. But, in those circumstances, they asked him what his opinion on it was, and he never really gave an opinion, which, there could be some criticism launched for that.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I guess that's being a politician,
What, doing that dance? The kabuki?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so.
I mean, I guess so, because you're going to
it's a sleight of hand.
You're going to piss somebody off, right?
Yeah, but, and I think that goes back to some of our philosophical discussions regarding what it is, whether there is a philosopher king. And I think one of the arguments would be, a politician, a politician, when we use it as pejorative, and maybe it's sort of his game to always try to please everyone or to keep his cards so close to the breast that you never revealed. But if you've got a philosopher king, I think, and you hire a leader, which is what we've done, I would argue, or some philosophers would argue, that it's then their duty to lead and show us what they believe.
Right. I agree, and he went along with it. I mean,
he did. He ultimately signed it.
He ultimately signed it.
And he signed, and it was under his watch that it happened.
It was under his watch that it happened, right? And God knows it's been a long time in coming,
Certainly.
But
I'm eager to see the new flag.
I am too. I'm wondering what it could possibly be.
So there is a flag with our colors, the red, white, and blue, and then with the state seal, which is a large eagle, and in God We Trust under it.
It's an interesting eagle. It's almost a Napoleonic eagle.
It is.
Look at it. You know what I mean?
And that's a busy flag. I'm not a total proponent of that flag as far as designs go. We've all seen the Stennis or the Unity flag or the Hospitality flag that is now, I don't know, you see it flying around Ocean Springs occasionally. And then there's the Magnolia flag, and there's a lot of different flags. I really ultimately wonder what they're going to come up with. But I think Voltaire said all of art is subjective, and that's what it is. It's a piece of art, but it's tied into some kind of nationalist or state identity. So finding a flag that's going to please everybody is going to be quite difficult. But I'm glad we're moving in that direction.
It is going to be difficult. But
it's going to be dang difficult.
Exciting. So these
like you and I look at the art around this room, and we may have different opinions on everything, and none of that tries to impart upon us a sense of pride for our state.
Right.
It's a piece of art that we can analyze, right? Or in any gallery we can analyze it. But now we're trying to put a piece of art or functioning. It's an item of function. It's a practical item, and it's an artistic item, and it's going to be hard for us all to decide on something. Even 50%.
Yeah. If we could find a unifying flag.
Unifying flag. And then, I just think it'll be quite difficult. But we will have a flag, and I think that even if it is not unifying, it will not create the disunity that the
Nothing
other
can do that like it was.
Yeah, like it was. You're right.
That was, you know,
that's over.
It's
done.
It was bad, yeah.
It's totally done.
That's done.
And we're sitting here reporting it on Law Focus. I'm proud to do that. I mean, it's an exciting time.
Now, also on the national front, the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so the Supreme Court just recently had some opinions, and you know, what I would like to do is go through some of these opinions. I think I'll entertain one or two at a time. But we recently had the Bostock opinion. We recently had an abortion case out of Louisiana, and then we recently had the Espinoza opinion out of Montana. The Bostock is what I would really like to go into after the break.
Okay, let's take a break here on Ocean 7, and we'll be right back with Law Focus after this.
Thank you.
Everyone needs some guidance in their investments so they make money with their investments and not lose their money. Money Focus here on Ocean 7, Monday at 10 a.m. and at 6 p.m. The star of the show is Justin O'Keefe. Justin, you've been advising people in the area of finance for 35 to 40 years. Okay, how would you advise someone if they come to you and say, what should I do with my money? I'm getting ready to retire in a few years. I don't want to lose my money. Where would you take it?
Okay, yeah. So it all depends on, you know, where the person is at in their risk level. So we don't want to do anything too risky with their money. So we would probably put it with an insurance company or something where they could get a higher rate of return, keep the risk down, so that way once they retire they'll have a stream of income to add to their Social Security income. And so that way they're not living just on Social Security only, because money talks and assets can grow wings and fly.
Okay, that's Money Focus here on Ocean 7. We'll see you at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Mondays. Dr. Timmons, tell us about your practice in downtown Ocean Springs.
Well, we've been here since 2006. We're a digital dental practice where we do digital impressions and Invisalign, same-day implant crowns, and guided implant surgery, etc.
So a person can literally come in and have the implants done in one day?
In one day. Sometimes people break a tooth off at the gum line, unfortunately, and we're able to extract that tooth and place the implant and place a crown in 1 2-hour visit.
Okay, what is the contact information? What's the most convenient way for people to reach out and make an appointment and get in contact with your dental clinic?
On Facebook, on our Facebook page, or timmonsfamilydental.com.
Thanks for being with us today on Ocean 7.
Thank you.
Paran's Jambalaya Kitchen. Homemade Cajun dishes for takeout, curbside pickup, or home delivery. Call 228-207-2821. We serve offices, we cater, and we serve hungry families. From jambalaya and pastelaya to cracklins and boudin. Especially appealing, our wonderful and legendary pecan pie. That's Paran's. Call 228-207-2821.
Hi, I'm Dennis Tynes with Sprout. Join me every Tuesday at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Ocean 7 for Sprout Central, where we talk about all things business, how to grow your business and how to start your business.
Law Focus with Nathan Prescott on Ocean 7. If you would like to stay abreast of the law, we're here to help you stay abreast.
Yeah,
Nathan?
we are here to help you stay abreast, and we were just talking about the symbols and the flags, and we get into the design and the art and the philosophy of flags. That's a deep subject, and a subject that I'm really interested in. And if you have any comments, of course, Clarence will post my name and number out there. Reach out to me. Let me know what's going on and what's on your mind about not only the flag, but whatever is out there. If you've got legal questions, we'd love to address them on the air, or if you need some help legally and professionally, I'd be glad to help you there too.
You know, back to the flag real quick. I love flags, really. I mean,
yeah.
You know, and especially if it means something to everyone. And a unifying flag, and that, as you mentioned a minute ago, it may be difficult to find a flag that embodies, you know, the essence of the state, that's completely unifying. But I hope that somebody can come up with something that will trigger unification. Everybody would be happy with the flag.
Even if the unity is just in the unity of the present, like we were all existing during this moment when this flag came forth.
Yeah.
You know, or you know, that could be pretty neat. Like we were living during.
It is a moment.
We were living during this period of time. And I hope the commissioners aren't too politicized one way or another. I mean, they don't have a huge. I don't know who they will be, but you know, we need to look at this flag and just see what kind of agendas go into it. It's unfortunate we're only going to have one choice. You know.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to see a menu of flags in November. We're going to see one flag, and we're going to have to make.
And this is the flag that these 9 men come up with.
And women.
And so they and women, and they will take samples from the community, and that's how they'll form their opinion.
I don't know.
I
think there's probably going to be artists, and I think one of them has to be from the Mississippi Arts Council, and you know, there's other requirements out there. But it will be really interesting to see that deliberation process. Another thing that's going to happen in November, and I'd be remiss in this time not to talk about it, but during the Jim Crow era, the Mississippi State Legislature passed something that dictated that the governor could be elected not only by popular vote, but also by electoral college vote. We're one of the only states that have that. So what it was if a governor got all of the popular vote but didn't get all the electoral college votes, then the House of Representatives would get to decide. Unfortunately, what it was a check and balance, so that the white-led legislature would ultimately get to make a decision on the governor if there was any kind of disparity. And it's never come into effect, or it's never come into effect for the purposes that it was intended, but it's still in the books. And because it's still in the books, in November we get to vote whether to repeal it or not. It appears that we will repeal it.
Wow, yeah, that's a remnant of the past too.
Yeah, it's a total remnant of the Civil Rights era and the Jim Crow reaction to it, or the Jim Crow laws, which were, I guess, was sort of the impetus for and many, many other things that were the impetus for the Civil Rights Movement. But speaking of the Civil Rights Movement, I did not intend this segue. Good segue. It is a good one, but you don't know where it's going yet. So in 1964, the Civil Rights Act was passed, and in the Civil Rights Act there was Title VII. Title VII said that you could not discriminate, employers could not discriminate based on race, color, national origin, or religious doctrine, right? So what it was in 1964, it was a reaction to the Civil Rights Movement. John F. Kennedy had been assassinated. Lyndon B. Johnson said, "This is enough is enough. We've got to do something out here to protect minorities, protect the people of our nation that are being discriminated against." The 1964 Civil Rights Act was out there, and we've been applying it ever since. The Civil Rights Act and Title VII thereof, which prohibits those discriminations, has been used many times to prohibit discriminations against employers. I mean, you understand that you can't fire somebody for the color of their skin, right? I mean, you understand that. Right. That's inherent upon us. Right. We understand that we can't fire someone for being a woman, for being a man, right? And for their sex or religious orientation. We understand that those are protected classes. And that's sort of actually really neat, because that's not our United States Constitution. There is something in the equal protection under the laws that could be sort of extrapolated like that. But under Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, those kinds of things, which, you know, that's not too long, was it 40, 50, 55 years, it becomes sort of part of our DNA, right? Like, you ask Clarence in the back, or you ask you up front, or me, or my employers, or, you know, people that I employ, hey, can you fire somebody for these reasons? You're like, heck no, that's just not part of it. Well, why? And you say, well, I don't know, but that's it. It's Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, which is pretty hip. Right? So where does that take us? Well, it takes us to this wonderful Bostock opinion, which just recently came out. What is Bostock? Bostock versus Clayton County, Georgia. I think it's very important that we think about these things, and you and I were talking about it before the break, or while we were working through some technical difficulties, but I want people to really understand where this case came from, right? This case came from a dude that was working for the Clayton County government, which is outside of Atlanta. And he expressed an interest through Clayton County, you know, within the thing, whether it be a bulletin board or what have you, but to support a gay softball, period. And I asked you earlier, what do you think? You think you can get fired for that? What does it say? Well, what would you know before Bostock? I mean, what would you think? Could you get fired for something like that?
I mean, I would say no, but I know that the answer is that you probably, unless the law was protecting you, you probably could.
Right. So it seems behind the times, is what you're saying.
I'm saying, yeah, so an archaic
to be
idea.
fired for something like that, you're like, what the heck, right? It would be like being fired for the color of your skin.
Yeah.
Now.
Right.
And I think that that's what a lot of people thought, but it just wasn't there. So even when I was in law school, some years ago, there were protected classes. It was race, national origin, and it was race, national origin, skin color, and religion. Those are protected classes, but sexual orientation wasn't protected, or different circuits had come down differently. So what happened was they didn't know whether Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was protecting sexual orientation. They didn't know. So a lot of states would go over and above and say, the 1964 Act, or in our state, sexual orientation is a protected class. So you had 21 states that did that, but there were a lot of states that didn't do it, including Georgia. They didn't have anything on the books, and including. So you've got this fellow, right? And he says, hey, what about the gay softball league? And they make up something, and they ultimately fire him, right? It's very serious. And they fire him, and he says, whoa, 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 this is back in 2013, which you've seen how things develop over time, and I'm going to go over some of those cases, but you've seen how things develop over time for the LGBTQ community. Back in 2013, it was different than it even was in 2020, right? So in 2013, he was out there and he said, this is wrong, discrimination. And he took it up and they said, hey, look, we fired you for other reasons. He was like, yeah, right, wink, wink. You fired me right after I talked about this. So it gets all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court with some other cases. And on January the 15th, 2020, a relatively conservative Judge Justice Neil Gorsuch, along with John Roberts, considered conservative or moderate in the what they call the liberal faction of the Supreme Court, but in a 6-3 opinion that said Title VII protects against sexual orientation and it protects against transgender discrimination. So the way that Gorsuch did it, and this is sort of interesting, but if you'll allow me to sort of weave with you this textual tapestry, is he said the text, you just read the text of the statute, and the text says you can't discriminate based on sex. And he said, hey, look, if somebody else were out there, right, and, well, I can read the opinion to you. If you're homosexual or transgender and you fire that person, you're firing them for traits or actions it would not have questioned in members of the opposite sex. So what he's saying is, because in this case, Mr. Bostock, Gerald Bostock, because in this case he said, hey, look, I'm interested in this I'm interested in this league, this gay softball league. If he would have been a woman and said, hey, I'm interested in this heterosexual league, or I'm interested in meeting guys at a softball league, or I'm interested in supporting something that promoted sort of a heterosexual unity, then that would have been okay. But the homosexual thing, because he was a man, right? He was being discriminated on based on his sex, right? If he was a woman saying the exact same thing, it would have been okay. So because he was being discriminated on based upon his sex, then they found a way to, pursuant to the text of Title VII, to protect that. So sexual orientation and transgenderism, or I guess gender identity, are protected pursuant to Title VII. Now everybody says, Neil Gorsuch, you shouldn't have read the text. What you should have done is not just read the word sex. You should have gone deeper into it. You should have looked at the intent of what they were doing in 1964. What was the law there to remedy? It wasn't obviously there to protect sexual orientation and gender identity. But what they, in Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas and who was it else? There's another judge that dissented with him, recent Justice Kavanaugh. So they dissented in a 133-page dissent, and Gorsuch's opinion was 33, 34 pages. It was pretty clean because he said, hey, I'm looking at the text. The text says you can't discriminate on sex. If somebody else was a different sex saying this exact same thing, it would be okay. Now, because it's a male saying that he wants to be, promote this thing, it's not okay. That's sexual discrimination. It's a very simple thing. It's a very simple analysis, and that's the end of the discussion. And so That's called textualism. You read the text and you apply it. Now, textualism doesn't look to the intentions of the framers. It doesn't look to the problem the law was trying to address, and it doesn't look to any significant questions regarding justice. It just looks at the text. And Gorsuch said, I will apply that, and I will, do this. And it's been an opinion that is very well promoted and very well encouraged, and people like it. It's out there. It's it's a big deal, and a lot of the states already had laws on the books like that, but there are a lot of states that didn't. The majority of the states didn't, including Georgia. So, and there was a lot of practice that wouldn't allow for those discriminations like that. But now, it's the law of the land. Remember, when the Supreme Court comes down on something like this, that's it. And we'll get into some other opinions like that later in Law Focus or in the weeks to come. But you got to think. We were talking, Edward, earlier. I asked you about this Bostock opinion and how you felt about it. You said, "Oh, that just seems archaic. Like, who would do that?" Like, I wouldn't do that. But sometimes it takes laws out there to outline this stuff. In 1964, before Title VII came out or before the Civil Rights Act came out, it was permitted to fire people or not hire people, make hiring and firing decisions based on the color of their skin. And, sometimes it takes laws to change the mores of a society. And one of those mores may be taking the damn flag down.
And things move slow.
Our flag down.
Things move so slow.
They do. And sometimes the law is out there.
I know it's a big.
So listen to this. You think about it in the terms of the LGBTQ community, right? Up until 2003, there were laws in the books in some states that were constitutional and permitted that did not permit homosexuals to engage in sexual conduct with each other, period. That's called Lawrence v. Texas. So they had to challenge that. That's in 2003. That's not that long ago, right? So until that came about, people weren't free to do what they wanted in their own homes. Sort of strange. And then in 2015, before that, we had Windsor. And then after that, we had Obergefell. But in 2015, another right, which seems sort of basic now, but that same-sex couples could marry. Remember? I mean, in our lifetime, in the last 5 years, since we bought that clean white shirt that we still wear on Sundays, same-sex couples have gained the right to marry. And now, same-sex couples or people with those sexual orientations and gender identities can't be fired based on that because of Title VII. Those other cases were decided on a little different grounds, but it's all very interesting stuff. But that's what's happening. That's out there, and it's all during the last 20 years or so, 17 years. So it's a big deal. If you're paying attention, you must understand that things are the world is different. Yeah, there are more rights being granted to more people currently than there were some 15, 17 years ago about what they can do with their own bodies, what they can do in their churches, and what people can, and the protections that are provided in the workplace.
Well, we have your contact information on the screen, and we would welcome our viewers to drop a line to Nathan, email, or I guess even a text, right? Yeah, you can just get to me, find me. We're there. And then I would say that our office is totally open, ready. We've got some protocols in place as prescribed by the CDC. If you need to come in and see me, we'll figure it out. But yeah, we're back. COVID is still very ever present. We were working through it, but that does not stop the Supreme Court from ruling. And there's some other Supreme Court rulings I would love to go over on Law Focus. Sorry I've been away, but it's just been pretty hectic at the courthouse. But things are smoothing back down, and we can start knocking out another year's worth of episodes. Yeah, it's good to have you back, and interesting show. Good show today. Yeah, always. A lot of great information. Okay, well, thank you, Nathan. Thank you. Being back with us today. And thank you for joining us. See you next week, I hope, guys. See you next week.
You're watching WXVO Television, Ocean 7, Pascagoula, Ocean Springs, Goshen, Mississippi.